Hey, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of the Faithful Agent Podcast. We are super excited that you've joined us today. We've got an incredible guest, Bill Hampton, who was connected to me through a mutual friend, Ryan Clegg in Northern Virginia. Thank you, Ryan. And Bill and I had a quick conversation on the phone. Well, it was 30 minutes or so. And it genuinely was maybe one of the most impactful conversations I've ever had. And I'm excited that you all get to hear from him today. Bill has accomplished a lot of things. He was the CEO of Ramsey Solutions for 13 years, took him from 15 to 500 employees. He now runs and owns Hampton Strategies. He's a speaker. He's a coach. He's one of the main speakers for Brian Buffini this year on his tour. Many people know who that is, and we are just blessed to have you here, Bill. Bill's got 5 kids as well. So as Tyler mentioned before the show, lots of kids on this show. Well, not actually on the show, but they've been keeping us awake for a long time. So they influence the show as best they can. But man, we're excited you're here, Bill. We're going to dive into your story. But first, Tyler, buddy, why don't you kick us off with a phenomenal Christian joke?
Phenomenal.
Let's see if you got a good one.
Strong
I set you up.
Know. Yeah, you don't even know if it's any good.
We'll see how.
I even had one.
I have no idea if it's good.
But I always wonder. Do you know who knew the most people in the Bible? Like who had the most friends in the Bible?
The biggest network.
The biggest network in the Bible. Yeah. Let's see. I don't know the answer, but Abraham knew a lot.
Hey, Bill liked that one. Good job. That's awesome. Yeah. It's always good when the guest thinks it's
I've
fun.
got a
That's
great
fantastic.
courtesy laugh. I'm an encourager.
No. Don't take it back, Bill. That was so good.
That's what it was.
Real.
It was totally a courtesy. Yeah. That was real. That's fantastic. I love it. Bill, do you have one? If not, I've got a great one.
No. Let's move on to yours.
All right. Please prepare your courtesy laugh. What is a dentist's favorite hymn? Crown him with many crowns.
Dang it.
Come on. I got to laugh. I'm the guest. I don't know what to do here.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. All right. So maybe that's not funny. It's more like, all right. Yeah, that makes sense.
I will say you did call it a great one, though. I got it.
That's true.
Not out of the ordinary
maybe not that
for
great.
Him, Bill. Everything is great that he leads it up to.
Again, as we talked about, Bill, my claim to fame is that Tyler backed me up in high school baseball, so great to me is different than you guys. I think that's the difference. But, hey, man, we appreciate the courtesy laugh. You can go back whenever you want just for that. We'll cut that out and just use it for every time that we tell a joke.
That's it.
It'll just be Bill's laugh. It'll be fantastic, man. But, Bill, we're so glad that you're here, brother. Genuinely, thank you so much for being here. And as I mentioned, just our conversation was so impactful to me in that short time. So excited that our listeners can hear some more from you, brother. But man, just catch us up on what you're doing now. Quick background. Who is Bill Hampton? And we're going to dive into your story, man, and the faithfulness of God through it all, brother. But just give us a quick background.
Well, man, my wife Amanda and I, we live here in Franklin, Tennessee, just south of Nashville. I'm born and raised in Michigan. Go Blue. But, I'm not from the South, but I got here as fast as I could. And I've been here for 28 years now. And have 5 kids, age 11 to 25. And life is good. I spend my days in a little one-room office in downtown Franklin, Tennessee. And I coach people, and I consult, and I speak. And, it was actually during the pandemic. During the pandemic, I just decided that I was just going to try to be more of who God created me to be, and try to spend my days spending the majority of my time walking in that. And I love moving people to action. I love helping move people to action. I feel like, especially coming out of the pandemic, man, people are stuck. They're stuck mentally. They're stuck physically. Sometimes they've moved, but they're mentally, they haven't figured it out. And that pandemic, man, it screwed up a lot of people. Mm-hmm. And I love getting a hold of folks and just trying to help them become more of who they were created to be. And so that's what I spend my days doing.
That is cool. I want to jump right into a question, if that's okay. That is, I'm excited to hear this. So help me. Very cool. What helped you realize that you weren't being who God created you to be? Like, where would it? What did you have like a moment where you're like, man, I am in the wrong place, or I'm doing the wrong thing, or like, how do you know that you're not doing what God created you to do?
Well, you've heard probably right off the bat, you've heard that I have a lot of energy. I like to move fast. I love change. Like my wife hates change. I love change. And I think I knew that I wasn't doing what I was supposed to do when one of my clients, I had a consulting business, and one of my clients was a 50-year-old Amish shed builder. They built backyard storage sheds, an Amish company. And they asked me to take over their business. So this guy who loves to move fast, who loves change, decided it would be a good idea to become the president of an Amish-owned shed company. Now listen,
awesome.
They were wonderful people, good people. I really enjoyed them as people, but they don't necessarily move very fast, and they don't necessarily love change, if you haven't noticed. And so
Right.
after I spent 20 years there, one 3-year period, and after I moved on from that company, I was, and it didn't go well, by the way. We moved the top line. We sold a ton of buildings, which is what I'm good at. But operationally and culturally and trying to get this organization moved, it did not end well. And I poured a ton into that. And quite frankly, I poured a lot of myself into it. I poured a lot financially into it, and it didn't end well. And it left me going, wow, what just happened? Like, it was one of the hardest moments of my life. And but the beautiful part, so that's when I realized I like change so much that I'll just chase it. And I thought, man, Bill's Superman. I can turn anything around. Doesn't matter what it is. I can do it. Because man, if you just grit hard enough and pull up your boots and you just go make it happen, I can make anything happen. And that experience taught me, no, man, I can make anything happen when I'm working in my strengths. But I can't go work outside my strengths and make it happen. I can make a mess happen. And that's what I did. So, and literally that ended about a month before COVID shut everything down. And so it ended, and then I just had to sit in this. And then COVID hit. And I get energy from people, man. I am totally fired up with people. And then I had to sit by myself in my house and try to work from home. And then so I had some time, but I don't want to keep talking, but a beautiful story came out of that. And that is why I'm so fired up about what I'm doing today, because of what came from that.
Share that, Bill. People will be better off hearing from you than us.
Right.
Well,
so please,
man,
continue.
So I spent literally my entire career. Everything worked. Dave Ramsey's business. We took that from $2 million to $75 million. We took it from, and I got when I started with Dave, he said, Bill, I'll share with you whatever you bring in. And so as a result of that growth, I was earning multiple 7 figures a year. From the outside looking in, I had everything you could ever want, but there was still this thing in me like, man, so I moved on from Dave. Love Dave. He's a great friend. I still love that organization, but I knew it was time for me to move on. So I did. I got involved in some other things, and they took off and they grew, and everything I was touching was going great. And I started to think I couldn't miss. Whatever I threw money at, whatever I threw my time at, it was going to work. And that 3-year experience working outside of my strengths and throwing a lot of money at it, millions of dollars into it, and it went belly up, and I lost it all.
Mm-hmm.
And now I'm sitting at home by myself with no one really to talk to, just going, all right, man, you got to figure it out. Like, and fully, I was broken, and I wasn't. So Brian Buffini, who Garrett mentioned, is a good friend of mine and a company that I consulted with, and through that consulting relationship became great friends. Brian called me when I was at my low point, and what he said to me, I told him the story, and he said, Bill, now you're ready. Now you're ready. He said, I want you to come speak to my audience. And Brian's largest, most one of his biggest stages is an event he does called Peak Experience. This is an audience that he's nurtured for 30 years. You don't just get on the Peak Experience stage. I'd never spoken before to a room that large. And Brian asked me to come keynote his conference. Man, at my low point, when I didn't believe in myself anymore, and I always had, but I just had the crap kicked out of me. And that's when a guy came up and said, man, I got you. Let me put you in front of my people, because now you have a story to share. And I got to tell you guys, it changed everything for me. That the belief, the confidence he showed in me, it lifted me up, man, when I needed to be lifted up. And so now I speak for him, but that is why I'm so motivated about taking people maybe from their low point and turning it around for them, or getting them unstuck, because I was there. I was walking with a limp, and I still do, but I see the beauty in that now. And I know what it can do for somebody when you can lift them up when they're down, and you can tell them that you can see in them something they didn't see in themselves, or they could no longer see in themselves. It's powerful.
It's an incredible story, man. I think so many times in our lives, right, we're reminded of the faithfulness of the Lord. We don't see it in the moment. And when we look back, it's, oh man, that's where it was, and the way the Lord works, and only the way that he can, building Brian Buffini's business and this audience and getting to this point, and the Lord knowing that one of the ways the Lord was going to use that was in Bill Hampton's life, to bring that encouragement, to have Brian show up and say, take the stage, and see how that was going to change your life and call you deeper into what the Lord created you for.
Yeah.
Right. I remember, actually, speaking of Brian Buffini, I was at one of his events years ago, probably 8-9 years ago. I don't even remember, maybe 8 years ago. And he says, hey, who in the room is under 30? There's 5,000 people. And, I was under 30 at the time, raised my hand. There was not that many of us. And he said, here's what I want you guys to think about. Everyone always says you need to figure out exactly what you were made for and what you want to do with the rest of your life. And I think at the time he was 50 or something. I can't remember. He said, I'm 50, whatever. I've been doing this for 25 years. I still don't know what I want to do, right? I'm still figuring it out. And I think that those points to say in your story, Bill, I think so much of entrepreneurs, especially entrepreneurs who change things a lot. I'm very guilty of that. Entrepreneurs who are believers, we tend to have a false sense that we should know exactly what we were made for. We should know exactly what we should be doing. And when we don't, there's a problem with us or something is going on. When in reality, the Lord could just be using these pieces in our lives to just sanctify us and shape us into the person that we are meant to be when the time comes, right? So how have you seen that? I mean, that your story is a great example of that, and the faithfulness of the Lord there. How have you seen that play out in your life? You're an entrepreneur at heart, right? You love change. You love when that happens. How do you handle moments when you sit there and wonder, Lord, how was I so off on this, right? Kind of, if you don't mind, share. What was your heart? What was your mindset in that season of life?
Well, look, man, I mean, I can't say this on I choose not to say this on a lot of podcasts, but on yours I can. There's a battle going on right? As believers, we have to believe there's a battle for our soul and for us.
Yeah.
And I believe that. And so, look, did I grow Ramsey's company over 13 years? Yes. Was I a very successful leader, and did I learn a lot that I could share with others? Yes. Did Satan use that as a tool did Satan use my I don't want to say failure, but my hiccup, if you will, in business to make me forget that, or to make me not believe that about myself anymore? Yes. And so I think what happens is that you just get a little off and you don't correct, right? And then you wake up and it's been 6 months and you've kind of allowed yourself to believe this lie, and then you forget who you are. I love the example of, you guys are in Virginia. If you get on a plane and fly to Los Angeles, right? If you're flying to LAX, that plane is actually going to be off course 99.8% of the time on the way to LA. And it's just that autopilot is just correcting. It's off, it corrects, it's off, it corrects, it's off, it corrects. And then it lands exactly where it was supposed to land when it was supposed to land there, right? But along the way, you're off a lot. The problem is when we don't course correct, you allow yourself to stay off course. Man, that's why I think just being in tune through prayer of what it is the Lord has for us, that gives us that sense through the Holy Spirit to go, I'm off. I got to correct. Oh, I'm off again. I got to correct. But man, if we're not in tune with the Lord on that, you're off and you don't hear it. And then before you know it, now you're way off. And it's like, how did I get here? That's what happened with me.
Yeah, it's a lot harder to get back on the path, exactly where you're trying to get to. Bill, I'd love for you to talk a little bit. I mean, I'd love hearing your story. We kind of brushed past the fact that you had be uber successful, running a successful company, and then all of a sudden you get to a point where you decide to pivot. And, not everybody gets to a position to where they are in that multiple seven-figure income and feeling stable, kind of what the world would define as extremely successful. And just kind of based on your story, not to put words in your mouth, but it sounds like, maybe you're just successful at everything that you've done, and it's easy for that to become a subconscious idol where you feel like everything that I do, I'm going to be great at, and it's more about the success than it is about the money at this point. It's more about proving that I'm great at different things, and I'm not putting words in your mouth because I empathize. I've felt those emotions for sure and things that I've done, but help us understand like what went through your heart as you decided to pivot out of what the world would define as success, and how you wrestled with kind of if that was a leap of faith, if that was feeling like you needed to prove yourself somewhere else on your own. Just dive into that a little bit.
Yeah. So, at Ramsey's, I had gotten to the point at Dave's where we were doing so well. I had about 200 people kind of, reporting under my direction, and everything I had once done, someone else was doing, and I didn't. And what I had to remember is that was new for me. It was also new for Dave. It was new for none of us had ever run a $70 million business, and they're far larger than that today. But at the time, none of us had run that before. And so you go through these emotions, and the problem is you have no one to. Well, I didn't have anyone to talk to about it. Looking back, I'm like, man, why didn't I get in coaching groups and mastermind groups and these kind of things with people who have done more, seen more, but I didn't. And so I just couldn't talk to anybody about it. And so I just sat in my own head and tried to work it out. And the more I did that, the more discontentment I experienced. But the truth is, Tyler, I think that as well as I was doing there, I knew inside me, even though I couldn't articulate it, that the Lord had more for me to do. I had done what I was supposed to do there, and staying would have just been collecting a paycheck and padding an account but I knew that I was dying inside. And man, I'm telling you, it had nothing to do with my love for or belief in what the organization did. I believe in that company. And I believe in the lives that they're changing. But for me, I had to step out. So it was a step of faith, meaning, and by the way, my wife and I, we went out to Boulder, Colorado. We met with an amazing guy named Pete Richardson, who is a strong believer and walks you through a 3-day life planning course as I was deciding. And so it wasn't, I got counsel around the decision. But so I say it was a leap of faith in that I didn't know what I was going to do, but also I had the resources to just sit for an unspecified amount of time and go, what am I going to do? And I got to tell you, what I ended up doing was I had a little office in downtown Franklin, Tennessee, where I live, and I would drive to that office every day, and I started passing, and all I would do is just go there, and I'd take naps in the afternoon, and I would read, and I would just try to figure it out. I started passing this couple on the side of the road selling peaches. And they sold them out of the back of this old Jeep green pickup truck. And I loved everything about it. I loved the people selling peaches. I loved the truck. I loved the brown paper bag the customers got their peaches in. I heard people talk about these peaches and how much they loved them. And I was like, man. So one day I stopped and I told that couple, I said, I'd love to invest in your business. And they were like, invest in what? We just sell some peaches out of the back of our pickup truck from my family's farm in Georgia, right?
Right.
But I had done my research, and I knew it was actually, those peaches were coming from the oldest peach farm in Georgia, 1,600 acres of peach trees. And so I saw a story there. And so I became president of that company, and Peach business is 13 weeks. That's it. Mid-May to mid-August. And man, I would get up every morning and I would get peaches and I would deliver them to hundreds of locations, and then I would set up my own stand. So take this. I am leading one of the largest multimedia corporations in America 1 year earlier. And now I'm selling peaches on the side of the road. Okay?
That's fantastic.
And let me tell you something, dude. That the summer I approached that couple, they sold $26,000 in peaches, which, hey, $2,000 a week, 13 weeks, not bad.
It's amazing.
That next summer, we sold $660,000 in peaches, and let me tell you, but we worked our tails off.
Yeah.
And I loved it. I got to tell you, I loved it, man. I loved cutting peaches. I loved selling them to customers. I loved watching the customers' reaction. And Steve Jobs said, you can never connect the dots looking forward, only looking back, right? So could I look and go, man, I'm leaving Dave's so I can sell peaches. Could I see those dots connecting? No. But I had a 15-year-old daughter who's 25 now. And she was struggling at that time of her life. And dude, she sold peaches with me every day. And we spent every day together. And we sweated in the sun, and we laughed, and we sold peaches, and we worked our tails off. And she will tell you that summer changed her life. So, why did I leave Ramsey's? It might have been to sell peaches with my daughter. But I didn't know that at the time. But I do feel like I just responded to what I felt inside was leading me, and God did and yet again God did something beautiful with it.
Yeah,
Man.
I just gotta jump in and just say that I admire so much. Thank you for sharing that, and I admire your humility in that. Like, I think that it's an amazing story to sit here and listen to, and to connect the dots as you look back to see here I was, there I went, and this is why it makes sense now as I stand with my daughter 10 years later. But the humility that it takes to step from a position of where you were and to say this isn't right for the right reasons and to make a change and to be convicted in that and to be faithful to where you're feeling drawn to and to see how that was used for good in your family, in your daughter's heart, in the lives of the peach pickers, in your heart. I think the most powerful stories that we hear when people share are when they loved what they did, when that they were passionate about what they did. And the biggest differences are made when people are convicted in what they're doing and aren't just doing it because it's cushy or because it makes sense or it's the most practical thing. And, we're making a difference on a larger scale, but I'm doing it because I care about it. And because I care about it, that's how I'm making a difference in people's lives, because it's so it's so atypical of what we see. And so I mean, more as incredible as your story is, like, I admire that humility to do that. And that is encouraging, man. That's very inspiring to everybody out there listening, whether that means, it doesn't necessarily mean we're all going to go out and sell peaches, which make it sound fun. But what it does mean is fun. Wherever you are, like, you should be humble enough to go sell peaches if it means having fun and making a difference in your family's life.
And I think just being open to where the Lord leads, like being open to that. Yeah. Look, God, because I genuinely believe, like, I think my best day, my best days are ahead, whether that be through my happiness, my fulfillment, financially, whatever that might be. And I think if I'll let God lead that, it's way bigger than I can even think about. I can be way happier, way more fulfilled, way more. My relationships can be deeper, and quite frankly, financially, I can have more than I've ever had if I can continue to listen and let Him lead that process.
Yeah, one of the I was going to say quickly is I think the challenge that we have as believers, right? Again, it's easy, and I'm so guilty of this. It's easy for us to say with our mouths, confess with our mouths, the Lord orchestrates our lives, right? He's in control. We know that. We trust that. But then when we feel the call to do something else, or not even to over spiritualize, when there's just something going on, we're like, maybe I need to do something else. We are so terrified of trusting whatever that is, right? If that's the Spirit leading us, whatever we feel, the conviction of whatever's going on. And it becomes so difficult. And we often, I think, for me at least, we were talking pre-show a little bit, Bill. For me, so much of that is I don't want to cede control, right? I don't want to give that up of my own life. When in reality, when I step back and say, I wasn't in control ever before anyways. And if I could actually be in control, and if I could actually make a choice between me and God orchestrating my life, and I don't even know what's going to happen in a minute from now, but He already knows everything that's going to happen ever, then I would say, yeah, you do it, right? You already know what's coming. You know what's good. You know what's right. You know the depths of my heart, and I don't. You know the depths of the hearts of the people around me. You know who I need to meet. You know who I need to be in relationship with. You know the peaches I need to sell, right? You know my kids that I need to spend more time with that I'm not able to do right now, whatever that is. But it's so difficult to just say, Lord, you've been in control anyways, but not only am I going to confess with my mouth and believe in my heart that you're in control, I'm actually going to take action in that direction as well to say, all right, you say you're going to take care of me, right? We talked pre-show, Bill, the Lord's kindness to me in my own life that I would say I trust Him to provide for my family, but in His kindness, I've never had to, right? Because He's been more than gracious financially to my family. But what does that look like? How do we step into that? What makes that so difficult, Bill, for believers to know or have a deep urging to do something different, but they don't follow it? Why do you think that is? What is holding us back from those things?
Well, Stephen Pressfield calls it resistance. If your audience has ever read the book The War of Art by Stephen Pressfield, I highly recommend it if they haven't. But he calls it resistance, and resistance is the force which tries to keep us from pursuing anything worthwhile. Like, it's years that are ingrained in us of fear of failure, fear of what other people think, fear of being laughed at. I mean, why doesn't someone start a podcast who wants to, like you guys have? Fear of looking silly, or fear of not doing it right, or fear of no one listening. And ultimately, as believers, look, I said it earlier, there's a battle going on, right? And we have to, we believe that or we don't. And so there's a constant force that is trying to keep us from becoming all that we were created to be, to living our fullest life. And I think we run up against that, and it's, we've all been there. We get excited about something. We're like, we're going to do it. And then what? And, Pressfield says, he talks about the difference between amateurs and pros. And he says, the sure sign of an amateur is they have a million plans and they all start tomorrow. Tomorrow I'm going to get out of debt. Tomorrow I'm going to quit drinking so much. Tomorrow I'm going to get in shape. Tomorrow I'm going to start reading scripture again. Tomorrow and the pros do it. They've already started. They'd start today. And so, man, I think action is the antidote to most everything. Do something. Go, I love, nothing moves unless it's shoved, man. Go create, just do something. You cannot sit around and think your way out of the hole you're in, the success you're in, your lack of relationship with God. You got to act.
I'm into that. There's a great book, by the way, called Just Do Something by Kevin DeYoung. You should go check that out. And that is essentially what the Lord is saying. The Lord didn't call you to do X, Y, and Z. This is what he actually called you to. Now, once you've done, now just go do something. Yeah. Just do anything. Right? I read that coming out of college because I was like, what am I going to do with my life? And my dad gave it to me. And just the title alone was like, all right, I get what you're trying to tell me here. Just go do something. And the Lord's going to make it beautiful because that's who he is, right? It might be hard. It might be easy. It might be simple, whatever it is. But that's who he is. He makes ugly things beautiful, right? And so we can trust him in that. Right. Man, Bill, we could talk and listen to you forever. And I would love to do that. We'll just do an 18-part series with Bill Hampton, just every day for 18 days. It'd be amazing. But, man, brother, so encouraging. I have been personally just, as I said, greatly encouraged by you and even a few minutes with you on the phone and certainly here today, man. We are grateful for your kindness and your willingness to come share with us, brother. So, man, thank you so much for coming to be on the show. If somebody wants to connect with you or learn more about what you're doing, brother, how do they do that?
Yeah, man, they can follow me on Instagram at the Bill Hampton. They can go to my website, hamptonstrategies.com. There's plenty of ways to get me, but DM me on Instagram. I'll definitely hit you back.
Awesome. That's awesome, man. I'll know that I made it when my Instagram handle has to have the word "the" in front of it. So be like, there's a lot of them, but I'm the one.
That's right.
Like, that's fantastic. Probably will never happen. Yeah. Bill, man, I love you, brother. I am so grateful for you. Thank you so much for coming. Audience, we love you. Share this with a friend. Listen to it again. Reach out to us if we can serve you in any way, or reach out to Bill if you guys need coaching, accountability, whatever it is, right? Just go do something. We love you, audience. We'll see you next week.
Thanks, guys.